podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for iPad today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
Coming up, it's our first ever annual State of the Pad.
Plus, a USB typewriter, PBS confusion, and SIM transfer in a snap.
All that, plus saving millions of frogs every year on iPad today.
Yay! iPad Today is brought to you by Go to My PC. Attention iPad owners, access your applications and files on your home or office computer from your iPad with GoToMyPC.com from Citrix. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMyPC.com, promo code TWIT. And by Slingbox, which just turned your iPad into a television. Slingbox introduces their new iPad app, so now you can watch your home TV on your iPad anywhere you take it. Check it out at Best Buy or Slingbox.com. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/iPad today. And be sure to check out their annual plans for savings of up to 20% off. Yes, it's iPad Today, the show that brings you the latest iPad news today. Not yesterday.
Nope, and not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Although,
it's
information that you could use tomorrow.
Or the next day.
Or the day after that.
Well, in fact...
It's about a week's worth of content, and then
then it's over.
No, and then it just combusts.
You need a fresh one
right.
every week. Well, that's why we make one every week.
Yeah, that's right. And we're anybody who's watching the show live knows that this is kind of a weird day to be shooting, but I won't be around next Thursday, and I didn't want to miss a show. So we're shooting it ahead of time.
They said you only have a week to live?
That's it. Yeah, and I decided to spend that last week on Maui.
I don't blame you.
Right.
I don't blame you. So you're going to go to Maui tomorrow, and you'll be back when?
The following Sunday.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's only a week, but it still will be wonderful.
I mean, I feel like for Hawaii, sitting around, and that's sort of the idea. A lot of Kindle reading. A week is good. It's a nice little recharge.
And are you going to go like the road to Hana and see the volcano?
Yeah, I think if we didn't, we'd feel like we missed out.
Yeah.
Even if it ends up being touristy and trafficky, because I've kind of heard two different sides of the story, and I think we'll go up to Haleakala and see the sunrise and take pictures.
I think that sounds great.
Me too.
You got to go into town, go to Kihei.
Exactly.
I think you're going to have a blast, and you know, as touristy as it is, you got to go to a luau and eat some poi. Is
poi vegetarian?
Yes.
Then I'll eat it.
I wouldn't make you eat it if it weren't.
Yeah, well, I was going to avoid the luau because of the pig and you bury it, and I thought that might be sort of traumatic.
Might break your heart.
Well, I don't know. I've seen worse.
Poi actually breaks my heart.
Why?
It's horrible.
Is it bad?
Yeah,
What's it made of? Is poi a root vegetable?
Yeah, it's a root.
Like a beet party. Hawaiian beet.
I like starchy.
Beets.
It's very starchy. It's more like a starchy thing. But anyway, enough Hawaii.
Enough
lore.
About that.
We are going to talk about this. Is, believe it or not, the anniversary of the release of the iPad. It came out in April of 2010.
It's weird that it's been a year.
It isn't. I mean, it feels like it's always been with us in some ways.
Which is bizarre.
I remember very well the twit before the iPad came out. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, I probably said it out loud too. Self? This is the last weekend you won't have an iPad.
And that was true. And it came true.
It seems obvious. But I just meant that I felt at the time, and I think
that your life was about to change.
History has borne me out.
As far as your habits.
Well, I don't know. My personal history has changed, or the global history of the world, but I think it does change technology and computing. Mm-hmm. This is a platform in and of itself. There's nothing like it. And it reinvents what computing is. And another thing that I will stand by that I said, the day they announced the iPad, which was January of last year, right afterwards I came out and I said, this is the computer Steve Jobs founded Apple to design. This is what Apple was meant to be. Mm-hmm. Technology wasn't there for 25 years, but by the year 2010, they could make something that was really, truly a computer for the rest of us.
You knew what you were talking about because in the last 3 weeks, Steve Wozniak said the same thing.
I know. I thought that was kind of cool that
he said the same thing.
And he was there, so he would know.
He would know.
Yeah,
he said we weren't able to create what we wanted to create, so we had to have many iterations that came before.
Apple was, the Macintosh, which it wasn't Apple's first creation. Obviously, the Apple I and Apple II were. The inspiration for that, I know from talking to Woz many times, was putting a computer in the hands of everyone, making it affordable so that everybody could own a personal computer. The second inspiration for Apple came later when Jeff Raskin joined Apple and said, we need to make a computer that everyone can use. We've solved the affordability issue. Now we need to make it so not just geeks can use it. He wanted a computer as a toaster. That was the inspiration for an appliance computer for the Mac. And as much as they advertised it as the computer for the rest of us, it really wasn't that easy. It was, I mean, I know this is heresy, but it wasn't much easier than a Windows machine, really, truthfully. This changes everything.
So we thought that because it's episode 42, which means that we are the answer to everything today. Today
to
only.
life, the universe, and everything.
Or anytime you want to watch the show if you want the answers. We would start a new tradition. It has now been 1 year of the iPad, so it's our first annual State of the Pad. Where have we come? Where are we going?
And where are we going? First, let me say something about Pad.
Okay.
Because do you remember when they announced the name?
Oh, yes, I know.
Everybody said, oh, that's an awful name.
There were many
It sounds like a feminine
jokes.
Hygiene device. It's not. That's terrible.
I may have made some of those jokes on Twitter and thought that they were very clever.
I thought, I said at the time, yeah, it's a terrible name. You will get used to it. It will become second nature, as all names do. Because I remember, frankly, the Screensavers, terrible name. Call for Help,
but you
terrible
got used
name.
to it.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
The first show we did for Ziff Davis was called The Site. Terrible name.
Right.
But
sounds like some sort of construction business.
Yeah, what is that? But you get used to it, and that's the point. In fact,
and then it makes sense.
Right. ZDTV wasn't such a good name, for that matter. So iPad, yes, it's a bad name, but we've gotten used to it. We're over that, right? No more jokes.
Totally over it. I don't think anyone even blinks. State of the Pad, maybe, ha. But I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
Well, it brings back
Bringing back
memories.
the humor.
Bringing back
the humor of
in
April of last year. You know, when the iPad was released, when people were able to buy it last year, I was out of the country. I was in Japan. So I was watching the hysteria from afar, and with my traveling partner, who obviously wanted an iPad more than life itself, more than a vacation. And it was really interesting to watch the first thoughts on the iPad and how everyone loved it, and the apps that were getting a lot of attention. Of course, Wired being one of them right off the bat. And
in fact, he was not hysteria; it was hysterical. He was in tears.
Yeah,
he
cried for 3 weeks because he didn't have an iPad.
You were in Japan?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it came out the day we left. Not an accident.
Oh, really? You planned it that way?
Just testing. I was like, you need to turn
and
off.
where is that guy now?
He's packing for Maui.
Didn't work, did it?
No.
Is he going to bring an iPad?
Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding? He's going to bring, like, his whole office.
Now, I have to say, I just was very self-congratulatory. I did say some things right, but there was one thing I think I probably did say wrong. I really said the iPad is a content consumption device and not a content creation device.
That's true. And you felt that way pretty strongly.
I felt pretty strongly that way, and I think I've been proven wrong by apps like GarageBand.
Yes.
Although,
just to name one.
GarageBand, now I'm going to point this out. Yeah, we all are crazy about GarageBand, and I'm sure many people have used it to make great music, but I haven't, and I think it's kind of one of those things that's a great demo, but not something you're really going to sit down and mess around with.
There are musically inclined people that GarageBand is going to be awesome
Maybe
for.
that's the issue.
I think that there are a lot. I mean,
I think it's not enough for a really musically inclined person, though. That's the problem. It's neither. It's betwixt and between. It's easy to use, and for somebody like me, yeah, I can make music, but I'm not that inclined.
Right.
And for somebody who's really musically inclined, they're going to get Logic on a Mac and make some real music.
Exactly.
So it's a toy. And
well,
that's, in a way,
like,
what all of the content creation stuff on the iPad is. It's not fully, it's not a laptop.
It's almost a Band-Aid. If you were on the road and you needed, we've told stories over the past year of band members who, their amp blew or something, and there was a way to use the iPad to make the show go on.
But those stand out because they're an exception.
Because they're exceptions. Yeah. I feel like to sit down and fool around with Logic, we're not doing that already. So are we really going to be creating something on
And somebody asked in the chat room during the radio show, well, how fast can you type on the iPad keyboard? I'm trying to decide whether to buy a MacBook Air or an iPad. And it's not the issue of how fast you can type, I don't think. It's whether it's comfortable to type, because it doesn't give. You're tapping on glass. You don't really want to write anything lengthy on the iPad, not because it's not as speedy. You can touch type. But it's weird because there's no give. You're tapping on glass.
If you're going to be typing the way that you would expect to type on a MacBook Air or anything else with an actual keyboard, you need an external keyboard. You have to have that with the iPad.
I think you're right. And then you might as well get a laptop.
You can type short-ish emails.
But at that point, why not get a laptop? You're just using it as a display.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you're going to be typing regularly enough,
get a MacBook.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of problems typing on this, but that's because I will go to my laptop anytime I actually have to compose something quickly where there's paragraphs and I got to go fast.
The keyboard for this is like, in my opinion, everything else on the iPad. It's for occasional light content creation.
Right. Commenting on blogs, tweeting, little stuff.
Yeah.
Shorter form. So I thought, Leo, since we've aired some of our grievances.
Is this the part where you get me back on track?
Yeah, this is where the train gets back on the track, and we go into. We were talking before the show about, without being too emotional about it, what are the apps that we now use as part of our daily lives that we would have had no inclination that they would be existing just 1 year ago.
That's a great subject.
Isn't it?
I love that idea.
I thought of it myself. Actually, you did.
Yeah.
Well, it was a hybrid.
We were looking for something.
It was a joint idea.
Yeah. And, of course, you'd have to start with Flipboard.
Flipboard. We talk about Flipboard a lot, but that's because it deserves it. It is a great app.
There would be no Flipboard without an iPad because... well, you could do it on a phone, but the screen would be too small. I think anything that's going to require the iPad has to be touch and has to really take advantage of the screen.
Not right now.
It wants you to update. You know what that update is?
It's a good one.
Oprah.
Well.
It's all about Oprah.
I've already updated for her, so there's another update now, I guess.
There's another one?
Well, yeah, it just warned me. I haven't updated in the last week. Flipboard is, well, you couldn't use Flipboard anywhere else because it's only an iPad app, first of all. So, you really actually don't have a choice.
It is by definition.
But Flipboard is, and I actually have been lazy about setting up my Flipboard on my iPad too because I still use my original iPad somewhat regularly.
By the way, this is the
long story.
The add Oprah to your Flipboard front page that they added, which was the last update.
Yes. Very nice.
No.
No?
But see, I filled it up. I've got... Flipboard.
You've done very well.
I filled it up. I guess you only get 2 pages.
The idea is, for anyone who has an iPad and isn't using Flipboard, is that you can customize your news reading. Some of the containers, the squares, if you will, are somewhat set up for you. You connect your Facebook account, you connect your Twitter account, you connect Instagram.
That was, to me, the thing that really put Flipboard on the top, is it took your Twitter feed and made it into a magazine.
It's beautiful.
By pulling the content in that the tweet refers to.
Right. Depending on what people tweet about, sometimes it's a small little representation within Flipboard. Sometimes it's a long article on Marco.org about Apple TVs.
Right.
And so on and so forth. You can also add RSS feeds, specific RSS feeds. You can follow certain Twitter lists. If you want to read all about your tech influencers, you can follow Scobalizer's tech people list.
The thing that's fun is, you could subscribe to The Economist magazine, or you follow their Twitter feed and you get almost all the same stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of its own magazine, free.
Yeah, and it gives you what feels like a little bit more control over things because you're within Flipboard for all of this stuff. So it's like a variety of magazines, people, content, Google Reader, all of that can be incorporated. And Flipboard has gotten a lot of attention. It has some competitors, but I still think it's it is the app to beat as far as consumption goes.
We're going to talk about my app cap as a competitor.
Is it really?
Yes, another one. Yet another one.
Interesting. We also talked last week about Jet Setter, which was just one example of apps that, they're slow to start using the gyroscope to be able to look around in 3D.
I thought that was very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, again, not really something that the real estate on a smartphone would take advantage of. The iPad has a nice big screen. Of course, it's not the only tablet that's 10 inches, but it's got all the apps. I mean, the iOS interface that's the beauty of it. That's where all their strength lies.
I guess this is pretty obvious, but there would be without the iPad, there would be no iBooks, and I think that or the Kindle Reader too, I guess. But I mean, this is a really gorgeous way to look at books, to read books. I actually use the Kindle more often, but I think Apple did a nice job of making this feel like a reader. And I think you need the big screen. You could do a Kindle or iBooks on an iPhone, but who's going to read it? And you need the touch because it is an intimate experience. Kindle isn't as gorgeous as the iBook store. But again, I think, and existed before the iPad, but I think the iPad really made this thing sing.
Friends of mine, I never actually did this because I can't read that much on an iPhone.
Right.
I can read a little bit, but I can't read too much. A whole article is it's too much for me. Friends of mine would, when they were stuck somewhere, they had some time to kill, would be reading their books on their iPhones using the Kindle app, and I thought, that looks like a nightmare. It would hurt my eyes. With the iPad, it solves a lot of those problems. I also think, Leo, we haven't mentioned, perhaps the most obvious part of the iPad that everybody loves, and I mean, including me, and I've never really considered myself much of a gamer, is all the games.
Yeah.
The beautiful games.
It is a remarkable
that
gaming
run on the
device.
iPad.
Here's a perfect example. This World of Goo game has been around for years on all platforms, but it's the most fun I've ever had playing it. Clearly is on the iPad. This was a game waiting for the iPad to come out.
It is the best game. I mean, well, I don't know. It's I like it a lot, but it's perfect. It's perfect for iOS.
Yeah.
But it's too big for iPhone. You really do need. Oh, am I going to make it? There they go, the little goos. They're so happy.
And then you get the little flusher that says continue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is. You've got the touch, you've got beautiful graphics. Obviously, some of the graphics on games are better than other games, but it would be a waste to try to recreate this on a smaller interface.
Right.
It just wouldn't work. And you were talking about even something as simple as Words with Friends.
Right.
On an iPhone, you've got little Scrabble pieces, you can barely see it.
Well, this was, it's funny. The thing I was waiting for with the iPad, the thing I was most excited about when I heard about the iPad and was praying would be released on the iPad is exactly that, is Word with Friends, which is a Scrabble, a network-based Scrabble game that I've been playing for a long time. See, I'm playing with my mom right now. Now, this came out on the iPhone, and that's how I played it for the first 6 months or so, and I couldn't wait because I got so tired of trying to play this on a little device. It's perfect, perfectly sized, perfectly playable on the iPad. It's just a natural.
The little pieces seem to be perfectly sized for fingertips.
Yeah.
I don't know how you even did that on an iPhone.
Well,
they weren't the same size.
It was hard.
Yeah. You constantly hitting the wrong box.
Right.
That's annoying.
So I have to say this is an example of a game like World of Goo that was around but didn't really come into its own, in my opinion. Same thing with crossword puzzles. You could do crossword puzzles on the iPhone and other phones, but boy, they're sure great on an iPad. Even chess is better on an iPad. So I think there's some really cool games that existed beforehand. There's one other category I would kind of throw in, and that's note-taking. Note-taking sometimes is the kind of thing that, I use Paranote on the laptop, and certainly if you're doing a lot of typing, that's a better solution. But there are programs for the iPad. I won't take any particular one. I use one called, I think it's Auditorium, but they record the audio, and then you could take occasional notes or drawings or pictures, and they attach themselves to that place in the audio. So when you play back the audio, you'll see that item that you typed in, or you click that item, and it will jump to that part in audio. That just seems to be a really good application of this particular device.
Well, especially if there's any sketching going on.
Sketching,
or
exactly.
using your finger to draw something
I think for a student,
or make notes.
You know, one of the disadvantages of laptops is the clickety-clacking. I think in a lot of college classrooms, they don't want the laptops because there's so much typing going on. This is actually a pretty good device for a student to take notes on.
Well, it more closely mimics the way notes are taken.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you sort of
It's very natural.
write something down. And I think, and I know this is going to make me sound really old school, but for me, when I need to actually remember something, I have to write it out longhand.
Right.
That's just something that works for me, where typing, it's like I'm only half remembering because I type so much. There is something to be said about writing out a note here and there, especially if you're in school.
Yeah, and
then, of course, there are all the photography apps.
Photography is a good example of something that the iPad really didn't make a lot of sense for since there wasn't a camera until now.
Right.
And
but
yet,
even if you're going to be manipulating high-res photos on the iPhone, it's like, well, you know it's a good quality, but it's not really the same as seeing it in almost an 8x10, well, more like a 5x7.
Maybe next week we could do note-taking apps because
we should.
There's half
People
a dozen
love
great ones.
note-taking
Maybe even more.
Note-taking apps seems to be one of those categories that we should revisit once every few months because they keep getting better.
Yeah.
And people keep wanting us to talk about the latest and the greatest. Yeah, let's do that next time. Although what we should do, because this is State of the Pad, so, you know, as anyone who has followed historical State of the Pads by former presidents of iPad today, it's not always good news.
Right.
There's the good,
There's negatives?
and then there's the bad.
What's the negative on the iPad?
Well, Leo, I'll tell you, one of the negatives is the cameras are there for the iPad 2, but I never use them because they're not good.
It's crap.
They're bad cameras.
It's a crappy camera.
I take my iPad, I hold it under my arm quite a bit. I'm always taking it to the gym because I like reading my iPad when I'm at the gym and, you know, absorbing news and whatnot. And sometimes I'll pass something where it's like, oh, look, this tree is blossoming. How beautiful. And I think, I don't want to take a picture because it's just this crappy camera I have on my iPad.
Right.
What's the use of a camera if you're always convincing yourself it's not worth taking a picture?
Well, and I should point out that probably more than half of the people who have an iPad probably also have an iPhone in their pocket.
And that's a good camera.
Much better camera. And
Right.
they're much more likely to pull it out and much more likely to have it, frankly, because it is so much smaller.
But there's no point in putting cameras on a device that are discouraged from use because someone might have an iPhone.
Hey, by the way, the chat room reminded me, and I forgot to mention this, but their Moleskine app is now out for the iPad. It's a note-taking app that duplicates a Moleskine tablet. Don't you love that?
Yes.
Or notebook, I guess.
Isn't it Moleskine?
No, it's Moleskine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's actually, it was a...
No one's corrected me, or I think we're all saying it
because nobody
wrong.
knows how to say it right.
Okay, good.
The story, which I think it's completely apocryphal, is this fella loved his notebook. He used to get these notebooks in France at Shakespeare and Company. He just loved them, and the company went out of business, and they stopped making it. And so he bought it and started making Moleskines. But I think
You could be making this up. I wouldn't know the difference. Chat room's like, I always thought it was Moleskine.
It's spelled Moleskine. It's pronounced Moleskine.
That's okay. I prefer Moleskine.
And there's no mole.
That's more fun.
No mole involved, as you well know.
I always sort of wondered why it was called
Why would
that.
they call it
it's
that?
just kind of gross.
I think I got this from, I'm thinking I saw this in Wikipedia, or maybe, you know, when you get a Moleskine, they have, it comes with this
when you get
pamphlet
it, you get
that describes this
a
apocryphal.
inflated sense of self-worth.
Yes, exactly. I think it's apocryphal.
Let me jot down my notes,
Yeah.
Professor,
Yeah.
in my Moleskine.
Moleskine. I have many Moleskines, and I've never used one.
No?
No.
Another gripe that I have, Leo, and this is getting a little nitpicky, and I don't know if what I'm asking or what I'm complaining about is fair, given the iOS limitations. But here's something that bothers me on a regular basis. Let's say I'm listening to music or video or whatever, and for whatever reason, so for example, I'll be listening to Pandora. And Pandora, nicely, ever since I'm going to go ahead and not play this because it's Public Enemy and you never know what they're going to say.
Well, we won't be
it's a
able to hear it.
family-friendly show, okay? But I listen to this when I'm at the gym because it helps me run. So I'm playing this. The song is playing in the background, and then I can go ahead and switch into Flipboard or whatever. But if I switch into another app that has video or audio of its own, it will take over. It won't ask me, hey, we're about to switch off Pandora. Do you want that?
No, you're right.
Because usually I would rather, and the Daily is a great example of this because the Daily app, every time you launch it, it launches with a little boom.
Right.
And as soon as that sound hits,
Kills the sound and doesn't come back.
Pandora, and I have to go
And it
back,
doesn't come back.
and double click and play Pandora
Shouldn't happen.
again. And then there's a fighting with itself.
I could see if you
type of a
launched,
thing.
Netflix and you wanted to watch a movie that you would kill Pandora, but not for a boom.
I still feel though that I should either be able to give my apps a hierarchy, almost like you do with Wi-Fi networks, where you say this guy's he's top dog. You don't kill him, or if you do, you give me a notification and let me choose. Right. That's a gripe that I find it's coming into play more often than not.
I'm trying to think of what gripes I have.
Oh, you've got gripes.
I
hear about them all the time.
Now I don't remember any of them.
Well, I guess one of your gripes is that it's not good for typing.
Yeah, well, it's just I don't think it even though it obviously is being used for content creation, I don't think it's an ideal content creation machine. It's ideal for consuming content and very light, occasional note-taking content creation type of things. I guess my other gripe about it, and I think that, in fact, like yours, this is the very nature of it, is that you can't access the file system. So every app has its own files, but they don't necessarily, you can't share them between apps unless it's explicitly set up that way.
Right.
So another reason, by the way, why I thought this wasn't a good content creation device. I know why they do it, and I agree with their reasoning behind it. It should be this way. That's what makes this so simple. That's why it's so popular.
Right.
But it does. If you've got, for instance, I have downloaded 3 or 4 recording programs, audio recording programs, and you can't get the audio out of them. And that's frustrating. Or you have to email it to yourself. That's absurd.
It's like you have a bunch of little independent OSs on a single device.
But that's one of the reasons it's, frankly, secure, because everything's sandboxed, and it's easy to use. Nobody, if you ask a new user, in fact, I look at my wife, the way she uses a laptop, she doesn't know there's a file system at all. She saves everything on the desktop. And most users, that's how they are.
Sometimes I do. I mean, for certain things, I'll just dump it to the desktop as well.
So I think that was smart. Now, what about printing? Do you think that's a negative?
Well, we talked about printing a couple weeks ago. There are definitely ways around AirPrint, which
but you
of course,
have to work around it.
Yes, you have to download additional apps because AirPrint, for right now, only works with 12 or so HP printers. So not even the whole HP line.
Let's face it. The idea of the iPad is you don't have to know anything. You don't have to be a computer user.
Right.
And yet, so many people want to print that they've actually made it so hard to print that you have to be more geeky to figure out how to print.
That's right. Especially since some apps have printing options enabled because they assume that people will figure out the way, or down the road when Apple opens it up to other printing applications.
So I almost wish that you just couldn't print. They just leave that out.
I don't know. I'd rather be able to print in a clunky way than not to be able to print at all.
Well, then you need to build printing in globally and do it right.
Yeah, that's true. I think that it's not the first time that Apple said it's coming soon, and then it never came. Kind of like the white iPhone for it. But when
I think
AirPrint
that Steve
was
Jobs thought nobody will ever want to print. The whole idea of this is post paper.
So he's just sort of as an afterthought throughout. If you want to, here's some HP models
I think
that'll
they
work.
realized what happened is they realized people did want to print, and they kind of quickly cobbled together a solution.
I think that we've talked about this in the past, that in a perfect world, you don't have to print anything. Printing is somewhat archaic, but it does come up. People do need to print sometimes. But photos, for example, I need to print out my beautiful photo if I want to put it in a frame and hang it on my wall.
Right.
And if I've got a beautiful photo file on my iPad, I don't want to send it somewhere else first.
Right.
I want to go straight to my printer. So there you have it.
Do you have, I'll tell you what, let's take a break, and then I want to come back
All right.
and ask you, after now using this for a year,
Yes.
what your favorite iPad tips are, your insights, the things, I know one of them, that you've learned in the past year.
You do?
That, yes, you would like to share with us.
I do?
Yeah, I'll tell you the one that is yours.
Oh, please do. You just tell me and I'll say it.
Okay.
Okay. No idea what he's talking about.
You can't hear that either.
We don't have ESP.
We're working on it.
We're trying.
I want to tell everybody about the folks at Citrix who have made your iPad productive. They've solved a lot of the things we just discussed with the iPad app for Go to My PC. Now, you know what Go to My PC is. It's remote access. So you put Go to My PC on your office computer, and then anywhere you go, wherever you can get online, you log on to gotomypc.com, and there's your office computer. You could see the screen. You can run programs, send and receive email, drag and drop files from one to the other. I mean, it really is remote access to your computer, Mac or PC, from anywhere. But then they add the iPad capability, and suddenly your iPad is running Windows. Your iPad is running Macintosh.
That's awesome.
That's literally awesome. And it suddenly makes the iPad actually a productivity tool. I want you to try it absolutely free today. The Go to My PC iPad app is free. And you can set up Go to My PC on the computer you want to access. Usually that's your office computer. In just a minute or two by going to gotomypc.com and using the promo code TWIT. Go to mypc.com, offer code TWIT, 30 days free. Now, wherever you go, you whip out your iPad. People will be amazed when they see you clicking the Start menu on your iPad. It is truly a thing of wonder and a joy forever. Go to mypc.com, use the offer code TWIT, and try it today. Just one more great reason to love Citrix and Go to My PC. All right, you want me to tell you your favorite tip?
Yes.
Because you use it all the time.
I do. What is it?
Using your smart cover as a screen cleaner.
It's so obvious. I forgot.
You love that.
So I do. You're right. So before the show, I cleaned off my iPad.
She's
all
messing
nice.
up her iPad. She's putting all
and
sorts
now
of...
I'm getting it all fingerprinting.
Here, now I shall hand you the smart cover.
But I have my own, Leo. I don't need yours.
Oh, okay.
I simply unattach my smart cover.
It actually works. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
It cleans it perfectly.
And I ate a bunch of potato chips before the show. You saw me doing it.
Just so that she could do this.
Well, no, just because I really like potato chips. I never thought I would, but those kettle chips, man.
I never thought I would.
No, I used to not like potato chips.
Never thought I would like potato chips.
I never thought I would like junk food, yet I do.
And then along
strangely.
comes kettle chips. Do you like the vinegar and sea salt?
I like them all.
You like
I like
pepper?
barbecue even.
No.
I do. Mouth just covered in orange.
Oh,
no shame.
Don't eat that. How do they get that
You're
flavor?
the one giving them to me.
I
It's
am?
only at work when I eat kettle chips.
We supply them?
Yes, Leo.
I'm
Yes.
a pusher. I'm
You
a kettle
are.
chip pusher.
Yeah. You mock
No,
me, but you're my
we
dealer.
don't pay our employees, but they can eat all the potato chips. They can stuff into their little
That
mouths.
is a great tip. You're right. I love that. And that's not something I discovered on my own. A viewer had let us know about that. So thank you so much. You know what else I recently, well, it's not so much that I discovered it, but I had been dragging my feet about transferring my 3G account from the first gen iPad.
It looks so thick.
Doesn't it? I held it today and I was like, hello, dinosaur.
It feels so thick.
It does. I mean, it feels almost like hollow.
I mean,
like,
let's be
what's
honest.
in there?
Functionally, it's no different.
No.
But it feels so thick.
Yeah. It's amazing, too, how quickly you get used to the newer model,
Right.
and then you're like, this old, it's like
Now, come on.
Brontosaurus pad.
Don't you think Apple, in fact, I can tell you for sure, Apple knew how to make this that thin. And they said, let's do it next generations because you want to sell something.
So that people will be all impressed?
Yeah.
Well, in any case.
Because they did that with the MacBook Air 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The little bezeling and the thinness. They knew how to do that. They said, next one.
But they made a kind of crappy Air that couldn't handle a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
some
but
people bought it.
It was thin and bezeled.
Right.
Oh, you're
But
saying
it wasn't
you're saying-
powerful.
right.
The way that it is
So
now.
then they released another one.
Yeah.
So it's clever.
Same idea.
It's a profit thing.
In any case, a lot of folks have wondered, well, wait a second. So if I've got this unlimited data plan, which I do, on my first gen iPad and I get the second gen iPad, well, what's the process? How do I get my contract onto the new iPad? Do I have to call somebody? Do I have to go to the Apple Store? Well,
I actually was wondering this. I don't know how to do this.
So the deal is that if you, obviously the first gen iPad, you would only have been able to have a contract through AT&T. Now with iPad 2, you may have a contract with Verizon. That's a little bit more complicated because Verizon doesn't actually use SIM cards. AT&T does.
Right.
Verizon is CDMA.
There's no.
So there's no SIM in their phones or their
slot.
iPads.
Where's your slot?
In
Is it
my
the top?
in the new guy.
Yeah. It's on the side, right?
The slot is where's the slot? It is it's on the top left.
So okay. Yeah.
So it's not in the same place.
Is that this? No, that's the on-off.
No,
See, I don't. This is
it's
a Verizon
top-
one. I don't have that.
Yeah, you don't have it at all because
No.
you don't have a SIM card.
No SIM card.
So I don't know the answer for Verizon. I think it's just you got to call. Probably it involves a call to AT&T and a call to Verizon. But if you're going AT&T to AT&T, all you have to do is swap the SIM cards. I did it myself this morning, and
Was
it
it
took
easy?
about 5 minutes. Yeah, all you have to do.
Apple used to give you a tool to do that, you know.
Well, they still do.
They still do the
Oh,
SIM
yeah.
card removal tool?
Oh yeah. It looks like a prettier paper clip.
It's made of liquid metal.
What you do beforehand, just to make sure that you're not going to screw anything up, is if you go into settings and then you go into cellular data. You want to do this on obviously both iPads before you get started. If you turn off cellular data on both iPads,
Okay.
and then you turn off fully both iPads, like you don't
You
just
press and hold.
yeah, you don't put it to sleep. You turn it off.
Slide to
right?
power off.
Power off. At that point, I'm not going to turn the power off right now, but you get my drift. At that point, you use your tool that Apple provided you in your iPad box, or a paper clip that you just unhook. You just need a little, or a pin or something like that. And then you pop out both SIM cards. You got to be careful about it. They'll pop out in a tray. And then you just swap the SIM cards. The trays are of different sizes, so you can't actually swap the trays. You have to take out the
cards
little
are
SIM
compatible.
cards. They're the same cards.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the same size anyway. Pop them back in to each iPad. Fire up your iPad again. Go back into cellular data. Turn your cellular data on. There's also a little SIM pin area, and you go like, ooh, is that neat? But that actually just allows you to
Lock it.
yeah, exactly. So this it won't work for these purposes. But once you turn on your cellular data, I have heard a few reports that it might say need to reconnect to iTunes to verify. But I didn't have that issue. It just worked. So there you have it. That was easy.
You want my tip?
Yes.
I think we mentioned this before. When you are looking for an app,
As you tend to do.
as you tend to do,
As an iPad user.
especially if they're buried in the folders, just press your home button a couple of times and go to, it's just to the left of your home page, the search. And you can search for apps as well as everything else. So I find I launch apps this way a lot. Now, there's one additional feature to this tip. I guess I'm pressing the headphone button here. That's why, yeah. There's one additional feature to this tip that you might want to do is go into the Spotlight settings in your general settings, and you can reorder the things that are revealed in a search, and you might want to take applications and drag it up to the top. It's
Oh my
usually in the
gosh.
second.
You're teaching me something.
So by doing that, because this is where the results, the order the results will show up.
Oh my gosh.
And instead of always showing, my friend Flipboard, it'll show the application Flipboard. So you can rearrange these. You can even uncheck them if you say, I don't really want to see podcasts, music, or videos in my searches, or audiobooks or notes.
You know what I never want to see is like strings from emails.
Well,
I would take
uncheck
that
it.
right out.
Uncheck
I would.
emails.
I will.
You might leave contacts in because then, if you're looking for a person, you can find it. Just check those three, and you can reorder them by dragging on the left. And then that way, this search becomes even more useful because now when you search for Flip, the first thing you'll find, of course, is the application. By the way, notice at the bottom, and I love this, search web or search Wikipedia. That's a great way to kind of add to that search. So that's always there. Whoops.
I can't believe that's such a duh tip. I never knew.
Well,
And I feel like I spend a lot of time in settings trying to find little secret
it's
things.
hard to find tips on the iPad because it's all kind of there and obvious.
Right.
No tip is that easy. Is that difficult to find?
So,
So
yeah, there are not a lot of hidden tips.
there's not a lot of hidden magic in there.
Well, my goodness, you found one.
Yes, I did.
Unreal. You know
and
what?
I don't have to. This is my other favorite one.
What?
This requires, in order to do this, you have to have Xcode installed. If you've installed Xcode from your disk, you can use that, or you can download it for $5 from the App Store. And then you go into Xcode and you kind of register. I could put the details in the show notes, but you register your iPad as a device, and then you'll have this new feature in your settings that you don't have already. If you look here where there's the auto lock, you'll also see. I'm sorry, where the lock rotation is, you also see right below it multitasking gestures. Use 4 or 5 fingers to pinch to the home screen, swipe up to reveal the multitasking bar, or swipe left and right between apps. So if I do this,
ooh, whoops. that was messy. That's pretty.
That's cool, huh?
Oh yeah.
Or I do this, 4 fingers. See that? Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do this. How do you like that?
I like it.
Or you can swipe between apps. If you've got a bunch of apps running, you go, oh, I guess I can't do it here. I have to do it anyway.
That's one of the things that people are trying to get used to in OS Lion is going the same direction.
Gestures, yeah.
Because right now it's actually backwards.
See that?
As the way that you would do it on a laptop or on a computer. That's really nice.
Isn't that weird?
It is.
It takes a little getting used to, and then this is really, that's the one I use all the time. That's the one I.
Oh, yeah.
Because instead of hitting the home button, you can do it. And it doesn't make that sound.
Right.
You don't have to register your iPad.
That awful silent click of the home button.
No, this.
Uh-huh. Oh.
That sound.
Your sound.
I made a sound.
Those are just your extra sound effects.
Sound effects
in
not
case you were
included.
confused, that was just Leo's mouth.
But if you want, I'll come over to your house and do that.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really nice. That would be really nice. Do you want to do you want to see something
I do.
Pretty amazing?
Can you show me now?
Yes. But you have to play it. It's a YouTube video.
I'll do it.
You should. And then we'll play the YouTube video and then we'll talk about how they did it.
I love this. Actually, I think Dick DiBartolo did this on the
Oh, he did?
on the GizWiz, yeah.
It's really cool.
It's pretty cool. He's got a mechanical typewriter, like a Royal, old-fashioned typewriter, with an iPad in the carriage. Look!
Is that the greatest thing you ever saw?
That is awesome.
If you go to usbtypewriter.com, there's this whole explanation on how it works, and you have to actually modify an older typewriter. But it's not that hard. In fact...
They sell a kit.
Yeah, exactly. You buy a kit. I think the kit is about $75. And then the guy who created this... has an Etsy store where he sells the kit and then he sells a variety of these beautiful retro typewriters. They are not cheap. I mean, they run you quite a bit of money.
Well, because he's got to get the typewriter first,
right, exactly. But it doesn't even, it's not even limited to an iPad. Great? You could use it with a computer. You can, of course, use it with actual paper when you want to.
It's a USB typewriter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
By
the way, thanks to Spaceman on Twitter who gave us this
tip. When you hit the carriage return. It goes to the next line.
Isn't that great? I just thought that was cool. I will not buy this because I don't have such a need. No, but I really, really like the concept. I think it's just awesome that people are creative. Yeah, see, I mean, look at him on it. It's just ridiculous.
That's good for carpal tunnel.
It is, yes. That and being a grocery clerk.
So thank you for that tip.
Yes, thank you, Rob/Spaceman1. We always like tips. Before we get into some of our viewer feedback, we even have some voicemails today. Woohoo! Woohoo. We always have voicemails, but sometimes they're a little bit long. But we should tell people how much we love Squarespace.
We do love Squarespace. Squarespace is the secret behind exceptional websites. I invite you to go to squarespace.com/iPad today. I know that's a lot to type, but if you have a USB typewriter, it'll sound cool
it'll be just
when you go there.
Fine.
When you get to Squarespace, you'll see a number of things. Let me give you a tour of the tour, shall I?
Yeah.
First of all, this big green button. Try it free. No credit card needed. All you have to do is go there and sign up. You'll need to know your name of your site, of course. Give it a password. The email address is only used for password notifications to let you know when the 2 weeks is up. And then there's a little CAPTCHA to keep robots from doing it. Now you have a site that has all of the features of Squarespace, including the ability to use an iPad to post, moderate, delete spam, check stats. Oh, did I say stats? Mm-hmm. Some of the best stats you've ever seen on a website, which tell you a lot about who's visiting your site. All sorts of cool features for SEO, including,
where they came from,
automatic site maps.
Who's a big referral.
This is really a great tool. You use this. This is Sarah Lane Rocks uses
Absolutely.
Squarespace.
Yeah.
Photo galleries, forms, and forums. I have to say that carefully so you know the distinction. It is just a wonderful site, and every Squarespace site is unique. Go to Sarah Lane's blog, which is sarahlane.com, right?
Yeah.
With an H, S-A-R-A-H.
Yes. There will be no ballerina pics at my site.
No,
You'd
guaranteed.
think all the people going to sarahlane.com would have realized we're not the same person. But
You would think.
you would think.
We also have our own Squarespace blog. Our inside.twit.tv blog is a Squarespace blog. And this is what I really like about Squarespace. Everything is unique. See, we're using the Flickr widget. There's Twitter widgets. There's Flickr widgets.
And that's not even something that anyone had to code or design. You just drop it in.
Kevin Pollak's using it for his show, the Kevin Pollak Show. I want you to try it free right now. Squarespace.com. See how pretty this is?
It is. They all end up looking very unique, although to build a Squarespace site is very simple. But you can customize it if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
They don't, have that kind of like, oh, these are all under the same.
Well, you had
Squarespace
somebody
banner type
do that,
thing.
right? You had them take CSS and update it and everything.
Kristen, who works at Squarespace, who's an amazing designer, I gave her an idea and she said, what do you think? And I went, I love it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, people, if you've got access to somebody with a lot of design skills, they will love Squarespace because it's good for folks who know what they're doing. But for someone like me, I can update the blog that was put together effortlessly. I never have to go into code that I didn't write, that I don't understand, and try to fix problems. It just works.
Anthony Castellana, who's the founder, he started this when he was a student at the University of Maryland, and it was because it's scratching their own itch. They designed this because they needed it, and boy, they're doing a great job. And these are all the great Squarespace people located in beautiful New York City.
They've got some awesome offices, so I hear. I have not visited them.
Their new offices are supposed to be amazing.
Yeah.
So give it a try. Squarespace.com/iPad today. I think you will love it. We thank them for supporting iPad today.
I think so, too. Before we get into our voicemails, just a quick email. Mark Gray, who's the founder and CEO of Squirrel, wrote us to say because I hope I wasn't too harsh when we were talking about social video apps last Thursday, but I did say that I had some issues with Squirrel. There was an auto tweet issue that kind of grinded my gears a little bit, and there were some inconsistencies within the app that I thought needed to be ironed out before I would become a regular Squirrel user. And he was really nice and wrote a really long email to say thanks for talking about it.
That's really great.
And wanted to just, he said, in fact, exactly what he said. It's not always easy for our team to hear criticism, but we appreciate open and honest feedback. We're listening. We're listening to all our users in the pursuit to make the best video curation and viewing experience possible. We plan to launch a new release in the coming weeks. It would be sooner, but of course Apple tends to take at least 7 days to approve new versions that addresses some of the issues that you mentioned, in particular, the ability to edit your tweet or post to Facebook, and some streamlining of the UI, especially around the browsing and collecting of content. And he goes on to kind of say, listen, you may have jumped the gun a little bit. We're working on it, and we just want you to know it's not like we're not constantly evolving the app, but at the same time, we're cool folks, and we appreciate your honesty. So
I like that.
Thanks, Mark.
I appreciate that feedback. And we are a startup too. We understand.
Absolutely.
We're in beta, perpetual beta.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think it's very easy to and I see this in the App Store all the time, where it's obvious that someone's written a negative review and written off an app, and apps get a lot better. Sometimes their first iteration, for whatever reason, is not the amazing app that it might be in just a couple months' time, or a couple versions ahead. So that's important to remember. And Mark, I really appreciate you reaching out to us, and I wish you all the best with Squirrel. Are those voicemails not working? Oh, you got to sign into our account. So I should have told you that. We have voicemails, but you have to be signed in to Google Voice.
Is it all lowercase?
Yeah. Do you remember what yeah.
I just can't remember the year.
It's last year.
That's what I thought.
No?
Oh, is it boy?
Mm-hmm.
I left out boy. Because 'Cause you're a girl.
A boy from
You're a
last
girl.
year.
'Cause you're a girl.
What could that password be? The funny thing is that you guys will never guess it, so I'm not worried about making jokes about
I
it.
wouldn't say that.
Well,
Glibly.
Well, you're right.
Don't
You're right.
ask for trouble.
I don't want any trouble.
Don't write a check you can't cash.
I don't want any trouble. You're right.
Here is a voicemail from Colorado Springs.
Yes.
Hey, Leo and Sarah. I called this recently, and I called you Leah by combining your
He
names
did,
by
actually.
accident.
He called once and
Anyway,
called us
the
Leah and
problem that I'm
laughed and
having
hung
with
up.
my iPad is I'm noticing some Wi-Fi connectivity issues. Every about 5 minutes or so, if I haven't been using the internet, my iPad 2 thinks it's all right to just stop being connected to Wi-Fi.
Yep.
If I'm constantly streaming content, this isn't an issue. So it seems like as long as it's constantly streaming, the Wi-Fi will stay connected. But I feel like it's timing out. And I want to know if this is a hardware issue, but it feels like a software issue. And if Apple has addressed this or if they're going to be releasing a firmware upgrade that will fix the problem. All right, thank you. Bye.
This has been a problem since day one on the iPad.
So is it because it's looking for it's reading multiple Wi-Fi networks and switching in between?
It probably is something like that, and it definitely has. It's related to the strength of the network. So I never have a problem with this when I'm near my base station. But when I'm not getting full strength, when I'm getting 1 bar or it's a little iffy, that's when it seems to happen a lot more. This is I would say a known problem with the iPad. I thought it might get better with the iPad 2 or maybe with iOS updates. I haven't noticed one way or the other on the iPad 2. I haven't had it that long. And he doesn't say whether he's using a 1 or 2. Oh, he says it's a 2.
He says it's a 2.
So I guess it didn't get better, but I think this is a known kind of connectivity issue, having something to do a little bit with the issues that Wi-Fi in general has with dropping signals.
Well, I guess what he could do is if there was if he knew that he only wanted to be connected to a certain network in a range where there would be multiple networks picked up, he could forget. You could go into your Wi-Fi settings. Yeah, if anyone's not familiar with what we're talking about, if you go into your settings, your Wi-Fi settings here. So I'm using Toothpick Bird, and let's say that it's always trying to connect me to 2-wire 59. Well, I can't actually do that because...
Yeah, you can't. Press the right arrow over there. Nope, you don't need a password.
The right arrow?
Cancel.
Cancel.
And if you go all the way to the right,
you're right.
that. Yeah.
So if let's say...
It's a little... You know why I know that? Because I always do what you just did.
Really?
It's very tricky. You got to hit that arrow just right.
So, for example... Well, why is it not telling me now?
There's no forget?
There's no forget. That's weird. Oh,
Maybe.
You know why? Because I was really frustrated the other day because it was doing this exact thing, and so I've actually forgotten all of these networks already.
Oh, they're already forgotten.
If you haven't done, if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you hit the right arrow, and you see all the stuff that you don't necessarily need up at the top,
there'll be a forget this.
There will be a forget this network, and it's a button that you push, and then it'll just stop trying to connect unless you.
That's a good idea.
You manually go in and connect again.
Another solution that does help sometimes is going into your base unit and changing the channel that it uses. Just a different channel sometimes helps. Wi-Fi is a little tricky, and these things happen also on desktops, so I'm not sure it's an iPad-only issue, although we had heard early on that this seemed to happen more often with iPads, and we know there was an issue with the way it handled DHCP leases. So
I have noticed, and this happens with my iPhone too, there are places that I've connected to Wi-Fi in the past, like a coffee shop,
right,
and it'll pull in the Wi-Fi as I'm walking by on the street, and I'm sort of like, what is going on? Yeah, and it drops whatever I'm doing, so it's a little clunky.
It's good hygiene to forget then.
Yes, it is. It's like Facebook apps. If you're not using them, get rid of them.
Yep.
You don't want all that junk. It's like a closet full of junk. Want to remind you guys that you can get a hold of us a variety of different ways. Our email address is ipadtoday@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail, as Anonymous from Colorado did. The number is 757-504-IPAD. Or you can always send us a video. We like to feature videos as much as possible. Just try to keep it to 30 seconds or less if possible. Upload it somewhere and send us the link, YouTube, Vimeo, whatever, so that we don't have to download the video. And we love to hear from you. You help us make the show every week, so we thank you so much. So I was wondering what Jennifer was watching at home right now.
I was just actually checking.
Now, how would we know something like that? How would we be able to spy on your poor, unsuspecting wife
It's really
without
kind of
some sort of
embarrassing, isn't it?
hidden camera?
Yeah, well, I just use my Sling Player, the Sling Player Mobile on the iPad. You know what the Sling Box is?
I know.
Oh, I have to turn on the TV.
Can you do that from the Sling Player?
Yeah,
Now, that's magic.
yeah. So you see the receiver is currently off. Press select to watch.
Will the TV in your living room actually turn on, or will it just be pulling the information from the cable
Well,
box,
that's the
I
thing.
wonder?
No, the TV doesn't turn on, but if the
Because that would
dish is,
scare someone.
yeah, if the dish is turned off, which apparently it is, she might be doing this to drive me crazy.
I think that's
I
probably
think
true.
it was only a matter of time.
Before she said, your sponsor's ruining my day.
So I can switch around to different things here. But the point being, if you get the Sling Box, you should go to slingbox.com and find out all about it. You connect it up to your TV system, to your DVR, your satellite, your cable box, whatever set-top boxes you have, even your DVD player. Now you hook that other end up to the internet. Now you're set. That's all you have to do. From now on, wherever you go on the internet, you can watch your home TV system, all of those devices, over the internet. You log in, there's a password, so only you can use it. And you can, and the quality is great, actually. If I could, I'm afraid, unfortunately, my iPad's like down to 3% battery. I'm trying to save it.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'll leave it off.
Yeah.
But the idea is go to slingbox.com, find out where there's a Slingbox dealer near you. You can get it at Best Buy. I think that's what it says here. And Amazon. Best Buy and Amazon. So you can mail order it or you can go pick it up. Set it up, hook it up. Now go out on the road. They've got a great iPad app, an iPhone app, an Android app, and you can watch your TV. You can watch it at the ball game. You can watch it in line. It's just one more thing that makes to me, in many ways, the iPad is a personal television. I think that's a lot of what I use the iPad for.
If you were weird, you could take it to Maui and watch all of the shows that you would normally watch at home as if you had never left.
Are you going to do that?
No. I think that would be not a very good use of my vacation.
Well, but I could tell
if
you why you
wanted
might.
to, you could.
Yeah, I could tell you why you might want to do that.
Maybe if I was there for work.
Yeah, exactly. Or just maybe there's something coming up that a ball game that isn't going to be broadcast in Hawaii that you'd like to see.
William and Kate's wedding, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, the wedding, the royal wedding.
I mean, we all make fun of it, but I think we're all going to be watching.
I tell you, the quality. This is a high-def image coming over the internet from my system using Slingbox, the Slingbox mobile player.
I mean, it looks amazingly
I know,
good.
isn't it great?
Yeah.
On your computer, on your laptop, on your smartphone, and now on your iPad too, the Sling Player Mobile.
Murder in Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
It's good it wasn't Hawaii.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I'm hoping for something a little bit tamer.
I just love it. The power on switch. That's all I had to do, by the way. Channel changing, everything you can do at home, you could do on your.
You're
Slingbox.
holding a remote.
You got
and the
up.
TV.
Yeah, volume up, volume down.
It's all there.
Mute, format. I love it. And the high def picture is fantastic. Slingbox. Check it out, slingbox.com, and get it at Best Buy and Amazon. Okay,
We love
Save my
them.
battery. Save my battery. Okay.
So I mentioned earlier in the show that I wanted to save millions of frogs. You may not recall.
Are you missing something, young lady?
Yes, I am.
It's time for our App Cap Awards.
I've gone Maui. Can you tell?
I think you should wear that in Hawaii,
It's like-
and I'm going to wear this in Hawaii.
This is my grass skirt, Leo.
It is.
This right here.
If you just had a coconut bra, you'd be set.
Right. I mean, what says Hawaii more than this? A plaid shirt and a Mad Hatter hat with the Twit logo on it. This kind of actually is more of like a Jamiroquai type hat.
It is.
I feel like I should be, gliding on a
And this
floor.
is like a Tony Soprano hat.
It-
If Tony Soprano were gay.
and wore red velvet. I don't think that's a Tony Soprano hat at all.
You know?
No, it's more of a, I don't know what that is.
It's like a red leprechaun.
It's
what
like,
I am.
You would be on
I'm a
a
leprechaun
candy
from the
box
Soviet
of some
Union.
kind.
Yeah, I'm a
Like,
Soviet
you'd
leprechaun.
be like, try Leo's mints.
And I like it too.
There's the Irish.
That's it, yeah.
Yep. So, okay.
You're going to save some frogs. Now, we have to explain. Sarah Lane is a big-hearted woman.
That's
she
right.
doesn't like any living creature to suffer.
Except fish, because I like sushi. No, it's not. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, you're right. I like to. I hate to be like, oh,
Suffer!
you know, I'm
Fish!
like #1 animal advocate because it's not.
But let me ask you something.
I'm not a perfect person.
Were you the kid that in high school, when it was time to dissect frogs, got the note from mom that said you were, you didn't have to do that?
Well, it was actually junior high, and no, I didn't because I felt uncomfortable. And so I ended up participating in the frog dissection, and I cried through the whole thing.
Oh, Sarah.
And I was, it was really traumatic. I mean, it was a horrible experience, and I had no option because, well, I probably did have an option, but I mean, I wanted to get a good grade and not make a big deal
You're a
out
good
of
student.
things.
You're a good kid.
Yeah. So
this
here's
is an
here's my solution to
Yes.
all the teachers who have to. We have to talk about anatomy in biology class. I don't know if it's high school or junior high or what year people are doing frog dissections these days. But here's a way to keep the frogs alive and not have to kill a bunch of frogs. Because
This is actually so good that Sarah fainted when she first used it.
It's right. That's right. Yeah. I thought it was. Is that a real frog in my iPad? No. For $4. And of course, this is obviously a classroom that would have to have a bunch of iPad apps, or at least a few that people could be sharing. But it's pretty much the equivalent. I pick my scalpel.
Oh, no! No!
Whoops. Oh, I
So
have
you
to,
actually secretly enjoy this, don't you?
I don't.
You haven't pinned him down
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry. You're right. So I take my pins. I pin down my poor frog. I mean, I think this is still kind of gross, but it's so
It's
much
not
better
real.
than doing this to a real frog. I'm telling you.
Right.
So I pin him down, and I mark him up.
Wow.
This is how I'm going to hurt him.
Wow.
This way. I'm obviously not very good at this.
Nope, you got one more across the belly there. Yeah, there you go.
And then I snip him.
No, I think you scalpel.
Oh, I got to snip.
You sure?
Yeah. See?
You gotta go sideways too.
Oh, well, you guys get the idea.
This is disgusting.
I know. It's pretty gross.
And then you flap it.
Yeah. And then
I don't think
I
they
start
should.
pulling
I really
things
don't
out.
think they should do this in junior high school, actually. I guess
This
you
is when
learn
I
anatomy.
did it.
I did it too.
Yeah. And so on and so forth. I mean, it gets really gross.
And by the way, its heart is still beating. See that?
That's not true.
Yeah, it has to. Otherwise, you can't give it adrenaline and
Really?
yeah.
I'm actually kind of getting into this.
Yeah, see, that's the
I
secret.
weirdly have
because
gotten
it's not
interested.
real, so it's okay. Well, I don't want to get us banned from YouTube or anything. For
Right, so-
frog violence.
Anyway, the idea is do it on the iPad and save a real frog because the whole thing is really archaic and really sad. And I know that there's no substitute for the real thing.
Yeah, this is a good
But
substitute.
for kids,
I think this is
especially,
fine.
It's like if you're actually going to go into the field of biology and you're going to be, interested in anatomy and what's under the hood, you'll have your opportunity to do this. But when it's like a required course that a lot of people have to just get through, there's just no reason for the waste. There's no reason for the frog
You'll learn
waste.
just as much doing this. This is PETA gave this their award for the Mark Twain Ethical Science Award. Best Science App for 2010, Sunday Times Best App across all devices list. So
Yes.
this is a big award winner, and I think you're right. I think that's great. And I don't think you need to hurt a frog.
No, it's $4.
$4.
Let's change our ways.
Let's change
Down
our
with
ways,
frog
people.
dissection. And by the way, there's another. The same folks who do the frog dissection. There's I think they have like a bird dissection or some other animal that comes up as well. So I think that if they can just sort of roll out dissections for all living creatures.
Pretty soon we could do all the surgery that way. We should just,
Well, humans.
humans just do it on their
Like,
iPads.
I have no desire to
Fix
watch
them via their
any
iPads. Yeah.
autopsy, but I would kind of play around within an app. Better than Operation the game.
It is.
I hated that game. All right, so what's your app cap, Leo?
My app cap comes from a Twitter followee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Somebody who follows me on Twitter.
You're the followee. They're the follower.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
And we were talking, I think, about Flipboard, and we were talking about Pulse. And he said, you know what I like better than Flipboard or Pulse is something called, or Zite, which we also talked about. Mm-hmm. Something called, I'd never heard of it, Tap2.
Tap.
T-A-P-T-U. Very similar to Pulse if you look at the layout.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same scrolling thing, although I love this on the right. The tiles rearrange as you scroll through them. It has some interesting abilities that I think might make this more desirable. Pulse, when you read the tweet, opens it up on the right. This opens it up below, and it gives you some interesting additional information about the tweet. You can follow Twitter or Facebook. I like this because it puts the Twitter pictures of who you're following on here. It has a pretty good selection if you look at the add button of suggested. These are all the suggested or featured feeds. There's also by topic, and it will take your Google Reader as well. But there's a couple of features I particularly like. If you, let's see, not go into the settings. If you go into, close that, thank you, edit, you can not only rearrange these tiles, but you can bring them together. So, for instance, if I want, I can drag technology news into breaking news. It's kind of like a folder, and make my own hybrid feed. I'll see all the sources on the left here, and I can unmerge sources I don't want to have. I can give a feed a different color so I know what it looks like. And I can rearrange the feeds as well. Unlike Pulse, which has many pages, this has a single page. But I think they've done a nice job. Also, when you, if you turn it on, when you use Pulse to favorite something, it will add it to a saved feed down here. So it's kind of a little bit like an Instapaper feed. So how to get an A on your final paper. I want to send this to my daughter, Abby. I can email it. I can also tweet it. And I can add it to Facebook.
It seems like all of the apps now have to have a really good bookmarking or saving or read later type of a feature, because we all need that, because we can't read it all at once.
So it's a good thing. This is really great for scanning a lot of news and then going back, saving it if you wish by just starring it, and go back and open it again. So I have to say I'm pretty happy with this. I think they do a nice job. It's very easy to scan with these tiles. Again, very Pulse-like. You see they have the left arrow and the right arrow, so I can move back and forth. I think just something worth looking at. This is free, of course. TAPTU, and I think I have to find his name, and I don't have it right up to hand. But I thank the fella who told me about.
Thanks, fella.
Fella.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Kind sir.
Too many people.
Scholar. Gentlemen.
There are our app picks, and there is our State of the Pad.
State of the Pad, Leo. This was fun. I can't wait to do it again next year. The second annual it will be.
Well, let's get some predictions. What do you think next year we'll be talking about? What will be new in the iPad?
Well, we'll have an iPad 3 by next April.
Certainly by next year, yeah.
Yeah, and the cameras will... the
better cameras.
Maybe the back camera
better
will
resolution.
Change. I wouldn't be surprised if the front-facing camera didn't change at all.
Right.
But, yeah, better resolution... I think that we can enjoy...
Can't get much smaller.
I don't want it to... I mean, I guess it can get thinner.
I want a higher res screen. If they just did that one thing, I'd be
think
pretty
AirPlay
happy.
will also really become something that people use more often.
I love AirPlay, and I think every app should be AirPlay enabled, because it's just great to have these on your big screen.
Yeah.
And how about a slot, not for SIM card, but an SD card? Add a little more.
That would be great.
Apple's never done that.
I don't think we can expect a USB input, but that could come in handy.
And, of course, the most important addition they could possibly make, 3D.
I don't think...
Have a great time in Maui.
Thank you, Leo.
And we'll see you all next week. She'll be so tanned, rested, and
true.
ready for iPad today. Take care. All right.